Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Lokat. Welcome to Star Nation's Communications from Home live stream show right here on Facebook at our main fan page for Star Nation's organization. It is Tuesday night, June 6th, I believe. You'd think I would know that by now. I've been live streaming pretty much all day. So welcome. It is a gorgeous evening here. For those of you who follow my 10 o'clock live stream, you know that my altar is usually behind me. In the evening shows, I have to move things around because the sunshine coming through the western window is so bright behind me that we have to try to get enough light in front of me to do that. But hey, you know what? The simpler thing to do is to move my chair to the other side of the table. At least that's what I was led to do. So anyway, welcome. Let's see. We have some people in the chat room. Hello, Polly Joe. Jill says, she says she was just discussing this with Jill Conrad. Well, good. Yay. That morning show. I don't even call it a show because it's not promoted as a show. It was something that I decided to try out in the beginning of May to bring a native live stream, which means that there's no third-party app. I'm not using BeLive for that particular live stream. And it's giving you the backstory of the card draw that I do every morning. I had started that quite some time ago and then started sharing a quote from that card draw to our Instagram account. And then I got the bright idea that maybe the Facebook community would like to chat about it and, get the backstory on that energy card for the day. And so that's what we started to do. And we're starting to pick up some followers with that. It's so much fun in the morning. It's rather informal. We all have our beverage with us. And, I shared about the card that Spirit led me to that morning. And we talk about it and share about it. So if you want to join us, 10 o'clock Central Time every morning, practically. Oh my gosh, I have the windows open. Can you hear that? I'm up here at the Academy, and so the windows are open since it's so nice out. And so we have some traffic noise in the background. But anyway, you can join us 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern, and bring your beverage with you and add some comments in the chat, and we have a nice time there. Hey, Rob Kendall, howdy to you too. Howdy. It's nice to have you here, Rob. And Mato, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being in the chat room. And here's my good friend, Jill. Now she says, Neshi, my comment was, thank you in advance for pushing many of my buttons tonight. Well, you're very welcome. It probably started with the title of the show tonight, I would imagine. Yeah, I bet it would. And Lisa's here. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for being with us tonight in the chat room. And look at one of my sisters is here. Christine. Hi, Christine. I'm so glad you're here with us. Tonight's show, it's the last week of every month, what I do is I sit down and I have this little conversation with my spiritual team. Hello, Alexandria. Thank you for being with us. I like that smiley face that you shared. And so I sit down and I have pen and paper and literally pen and paper to take notes as I sit down with my spiritual team, and I ask them about the things that for the different radio shows that I'm host of or co-host, and ask what is important for us to talk about this coming month, the month of June, July, whatever. And I listen, right? Well, this particular topic, who is in your vibe and who is not, right? My team wanted me to watch some videos. And so I went to YouTube and I'm scrolling through, okay, which one am I supposed to watch? Because there's so many, right? And it happened to be a tarot card reader, and she's international, and she was going to be doing she's something called the Weekly Bump. I don't know exactly what that is, but because I've never seen her before. And so we stopped on that one, and I'm looking at it. Oh, that looks interesting. Let's see what this one has to say. And so she's doing her thing, and about halfway through, she uses this phrase, "Who's in your vibe and who's not?" And it went ding, 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 ding in my head. That's it. And I thought, okay, so is that, what title do we use? And what, obviously we're talking about who are we closest to, who's in our friends group, who are the people around us, right? And no, we were supposed to keep it. Who's in your vibe and who's not? Because it is a well-used phrase these days. And I'm sure you've seen this one. Hang on, let me bring it up. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You know that one, right? I kind of like, there's so many of them out there. And this one caught my eye because it kind of reminds me of stars in the background, the constellation, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's one of those phrases and words that are in the mass consciousness, right? And so that's the title that we're supposed to use for tonight. And I knew in my heart that it was going to cause a little consternation with a few people. And that's okay, because we're going to be talking about some things that, are a little bit difficult to talk about, but what better time to do it than now? And so that's what we're going to do. Hello, Mary. Another good friend of mine from down near Madison, Mary. Hello, I'm glad you're here tonight, Mary. And Rob is saying, you need a Thurman for good vibrations. Yes, it's true. Hey, Margaret, so glad you're in the chat room. I like it. I haven't seen it. Oh, good. It's a very catchy phrase. It started in approximately 2015, and with a book that was written by Boho Berry. And he uses the term, your vibe attracts your tribe. And obviously it took off like wildfire. It went viral. And you see it in a lot of different places. And the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It speaks to the law of attraction and that kind of thing. And then I thought, as a tribal person, as an indigenous woman from Turtle Island here in the United States, America, North America, I had to look at that for a minute, because I've always been a part of a tribe. And it didn't necessarily require my vibe. It required my DNA, but not my vibe necessarily. And so, for some people, some indigenous people, they look at this phrase and they kind of think, well, we've always been a part of that. And I've heard elders talking to the youth about gang membership, right? And saying, well, why are you doing that? You already have a gang. It's called your tribe. It's called your people. We already have our colors. We already have all of that. Why are you looking outside when it's right here? So that phrase about your vibe attracts your tribe has many different meanings, right? Many different meanings. Jason, hi Jason, welcome to the show. He says, first time in catching you, learned of the page from a friend yesterday. Well, I'm so glad that you joined us, Jason. I hope you find some of the information helpful and useful. So what we're talking about tonight is who is in your vibe and who's not. And when I sat and thought about this, felt about it, what direction do we want to take this? And this is the direction that I was prompted to take. And that is talking about our vibration, our energy field as spirit coming into a physical life called birth, whether it's you stay with your biological family or not, you come in with a certain vibration, a certain way of being naturally. I had one teacher say it's kind of like when you're in school and let's say it's your math teacher and they automatically give you an A. You have an A going and you haven't even done anything yet. And it's up to you to keep your A all the way through the year, right? And you have to do your work to keep your A. And she said it's the same way with your original vibration that you come into this world with. You already have it. It's unique. It's your signature that the creator in the universe knows you by, recognizes you by. And our vibration tends to change as we grow due to life lessons. And it's the things that we decided that we wanted to learn here in this physical life, this earth walk. Some people call it a medicine walk. And it's through those life lessons that that changes our vibration. Our decisions that we've made over time changes our vibration. And so through the trauma that we experience, both in all our bodies, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, okay, it changes our vibration. And it's meant to. I know that's not exactly an easy thing to say, and even less easy to accept, because who would want to say or claim that they're responsible for a disability, having a chemical imbalance, those kinds of things, getting hurt in a car accident. Who would want to go through the pain and the trauma of any of that? Well, our soul comes with our soul contract. Everybody that we meet, every experience that we have, is all about our soul growth. And so our life lessons changes our vibration. When we decide that we don't want to learn a particular lesson that comes our way, we ignore it. We ignore it. We don't look at the signs. We dampen it through drug abuse or alcohol abuse or any kind of addiction, really. I mean, if you have an addiction to shopping, that's an addiction. And so it clouds our vibration because we're not doing our work. We're not keeping our A. And many times that work is very difficult. It's challenging. The more we struggle with it and fight against it, and I don't want to do that, the harder it becomes until we get that cosmic 2x4. And then that's the wake-up call, right? Some people call it hitting bottom. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. And so it's the work that we do to learn the life lessons and then to heal those life lessons. And from my cultural background, for those who haven't seen the show yet, Jason, I'm an enrolled member of the Potawatomi Nation, with ancestry to the Ho-Chunk Nation and to the Yaqui Nation. And I also have some French Canadian too. I grew up in a very traditional home. And so in that tradition, in that culture, we have the opportunity to be able to connect and stay connected. And when we disconnect, we can always reconnect again. It's just that when we look at life lessons from that point of view, we're never alone. We have a spiritual team. We have spirit that helps us. We have power animals. We have totems. We're never alone. And the only time we feel that we're alone is because we tell ourselves that. And so, my point of view, my perspectives comes from my culture. All right. And it also comes from my education as well. And my experience, my life experience. And my life experience with who is in your vibe and who's not. The last time I went through something like this and checking to see what my vibe is and how much I've changed, I did. I have a lot of people who are no longer in my life. And there's a couple that I struggled against. It's like, I don't want to change this. I want them here, and that's not how it turned out. And the more I struggled with it, the more I refused to do the lesson, the harder it was. And here I am, somebody who understands all of this and knew what was happening on many levels. It was on the mental level that it was the most difficult. It was the most difficult. So when we are learning our life lesson and we have those traumas that comes from life, it really is up to us. I'm going to put it in air quotes, job. It's our responsibility to heal those traumas. And when we do our work on ourselves, when we do the healing on all of our bodies, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual, when we do that work on ourselves and we start that healing process, the more we heal, the closer we get to our original vibration, our original frequency. And I know it sounds, because we already have the A, right? We already have it. And then we go through life and it starts to cloud it and we're out of tune. Because it's a song. It really is. It's a song. Our soul is. And it gets out of tune. And then it's because we're learning our life lessons. And then it's up to us to heal so that we can be more in tune with our original frequency, our original vibration. That's why we're here on this earth walk, is to learn it, to experience it for soul growth, And so I like that phrase, that about I already have the A, I just have to keep it. And that's why we have so many ways, so many paths up the mountain, they say, to learn the life lessons, to which vehicle do you want to ride in, do you want to work with the angels in that path? Do you want to do a shamanic path? Do you want to do, the meditative path? There's so many different paths that we can experience it through, right? Mary Anderson is saying, is getting to the original frequency our main goal? Yes, it is. We start out that way and we return back to it. So when it's time for us to leave the physical world, our physical body, we call it walking on. Some tribal nations call it dropping the robes. When it's our time to move back into spirit, to transition back into spirit, we want to be as close to our original frequency as possible, right? Now, does that mean everybody makes it? At some point, I believe that. But while we're in the physical body, that is our goal that we're trying to. And some people phrase it as moving back to the one, going back to source, being whole, right? The oneness. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And Rob is saying, out of tune, slightly just enough to annoy you. Yes, legendary pink dots. That's a good one. That is absolutely true, because it's in that out of tuneness that we attract certain beings to us. And I say beings because it's just not the two-legged. It's just not the humans. It's also the four-legged and the winged ones, of those who fly. It also is the ones that we can't see. Some people call them entities. Yeah. And so when we're out of tune and we look around us and who is in our community, who are the people closest to us? Because they're going to be somebody who is in your vibration, because like energy meets like energy, right? We meet and we can hang out. We can be together. When one of those vibrations change, one of those energy changes in vibration, you no longer have a meeting, right? And so one of those vibrations is going to leave because it no longer meets. So sometimes it's the vibration that is a little bit lower in vibration that will leave. Sometimes it's the one in the higher vibration is going to leave. And that's what it means about who's in your vibration and who is not. When you're looking at the people who are in your tribe, okay, in your inner circle, in your friends, even your family, when you look at who's around you, you can kind of see what your vibration is like, because they're showing it to you. It can be a really, really good thing, or it could not be a good thing. And then that's when you have to make your own decisions and say, okay, what do I need to do to heal this? To bring up my vibration, to be a different vibration. A different vibration. It's not necessarily a level thing or a competition kind of thing. It's not that at all. It's an experience is all it is. When, let's say you have a really good friend, you've been good friends for a long time. And you get on your spiritual journey. You're awake now. You're walking your spiritual path consciously. You're reading all these books about spirit, about vibration. You're going to classes. You start to change. Your belief systems start to shift a bit. Your friend is expecting you to be one way because that's the way you've always been with them. And now you're different. You see life differently. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it's just different. And so the friend may be accepting of it and say, you know what? I'm going to bounce because I'm not having fun anymore. I'm going to go over here. And they leave. Or they try to change you and want you back the way that you used to be because they liked you that way. And then you end up with some friction because they're trying to hold you in a place that you no longer vibrate at. And that becomes uncomfortable. And sometimes that's where the confrontations happen. That's where you get to stand in your own truth. I'm going to use some of these cliches. Stand in your own truth. That's where you get to speak your truth. That's where you can see maybe or identify, feel it, where it is in your chakra system that is being affected, and maybe there's a block there. So sometimes it can be good to identify things. But it's also, that's where a lot of growth happens, is in the friction. You get growing pains. Yeah, you have to make the decision to live the way that you want to live, to vibrate the way you want to vibrate. And sometimes I'm going to say something that's kind of hard to accept, to notice, to put your focus on. Any kind of addiction at all, doesn't matter what it is, any kind of addiction is out of balance. And when you want to change that to be in balance, sometimes the friends that you hang out with that are out of balance, they don't want you in balance. Let's go shoe shopping. Let's go to the bookstore. And then of course there's the ones that everybody knows about is, the drugs and the alcohol. But some people don't realize they have an addiction to food or to shopping or to any of that. And when you try to change it, you're changing your vibration. You're the one who has to decide that that's what you want to do. And then you move toward it, right? And you move toward it. So I'm checking my notes. Yeah, sometimes, okay. The one thing that my team wanted me to definitely talk about is when there's that friend or that group of people that you no longer vibrate the same way anymore, and it causes that friction, right? That you are only responsible for your own thing, your own stuff, your own side of the street. You're not responsible for their side of the street. And life lessons are a two-way street. So if you're learning a life lesson, so are they. But you're only responsible for your side of it. You can't make them change. You can't make them do something different. You can plant seeds, maybe. You can have a discussion. Sometimes it's an easy discussion and sometimes it's more like a debate. But you can have it, but you can't change them. And some people don't even want to talk about it. They want to act like it's not even there. If they don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Right? There's an old saying, an old one, is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so when you're having this friction with another person, no matter how close they are to you, is that you can't make them do anything that they don't want to do. You can lead them there, but that doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. Just like they can't change you. They can't make you do anything that you don't want to do either. And that's where we get into, standing in your power, not giving your power away, those kinds of things. And so this is all kind of wrapped up into who is in your vibe and who's not. And sometimes when you think the easier path is going to let them go, is to let them go. And it is sometimes an easier path. There's a fine line though, I think, and this is just my 2 cents, okay? I think that there's a fine line of letting them go and saying that this is peaceful and letting them go. And being in denial. And having walking away from something that is really meant for you to grow from, and you don't want to do it because it's going to be difficult, or the emotions that's attached to it is going to be hard to take. And sometimes it's really very simple. You want to be right. And so you'd rather be right than to sit down and talk to the person if they're willing to talk. Sometimes that won't happen either. Because you're ready to talk and they're not. So it is all about the growth and who is in your vibration and who's not. It's really the harder part is the ones that aren't in your vibration. That's where our growth is. And there's a certain amount of maturity, both in chronological age, because you have some experience, right? And then there's emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, and mental maturity. Sometimes what it takes is to be able to sit down, even though you disagree about a topic, is to be able to sit down and hear them out, and vice versa, for them to hear you out. Because maybe you can have an open mind enough to see it from a different perspective doesn't make anybody right or anybody wrong. That's the maturity. That's the maturity. Oh, and here's Rob. Rob is saying, you're not addicted to anything if you're out of balance with everything. I don't know if you can be out of balance with everything, though, Rob. Only the things that are important to you, maybe. And Jill is saying, this is such a loving way to frame this. Yeah. It does. It came with some experience and growth. In my 20s, it was not a pretty sight, people. It was not pretty. I'm a triple Sagittarian. I have a lot of fire, and learning how to manage that fire and to use it in a good way and not to incinerate. Yeah, some of the people I knew back in my 20s, a lot of apologies happened. Mary, don't interpret or interrupt someone else's journey. You're responsible for your journey only. Exactly. We can cheerlead other people. We can say, yeah, do it, go, you're doing good. Or, oh, geez, you sure you want to do that? Okay, I'll be here I'll be here if you need me. I'll pray. What do you need? Sometimes that's all you can do. You can hold somebody's hand. But yeah, you're right. It's their journey as it is your journey. And so the people here, when you're in that state of that friction of letting somebody go, or hopefully you can still part ways, but maybe more in a mature way. It doesn't have anything to do with who's right and who's wrong anymore, right? Is that you agree that you're that part of your life is complete, and now you're going to go over and do a different experience someplace else, right? Here's what I've learned. And it was a lesson that was one that I was fighting against. I was trying to go upstream rather than go with the current. And when I learned that, okay, I'll roll over and float and see what happens, right? This is what happened. I've learned that when it's time to go, to leave, your vibrations are no longer matching. Is that how do you want it to occur? That leaving, that going in another direction. And it goes back to the golden rule, okay? To treat others the way that you want to be treated. So if you prefer to be respected, to be loving and kind, and that's how you leave. That if that's how you want to be treated, that's how you leave. Whether or not that they're willing to give that to you, it's in your soul growth. That's what I learned. Sometimes it's not reciprocated, but you do the best you can. You do it in a good way. As my mother would say, do it with a good heart. You do it in a good way, the best way that you can. If you feel that, you're hurt in some way, and if you can apologize with it being in your heart, that's a good thing to do, so that when you leave, it's got a completion to it, right? I had to learn that. I'm not talking to preach to you, honestly. I'm not. This has everything to do with experience, and to be able to notice who's in your vibe and who's not. Right now, there's a flip side to this too. Christine, the hardest is watching your child's journey when they pick a rough path. Oh, isn't that the truth? It really is, because that parent-child connection is so strong. and allowing them to experience their own experience, even though you can see that they're heading toward the cliff. What is that? There's a movie, Diane Keaton. I'll think of the title. But anyway, she's a mom in there, and she's telling her three daughters, that she's washing her hands of the whole thing because they're not doing what she's telling them to do anyway. And how being a parent is the hardest role in the entire world, because if they're walking toward a cliff, you're not supposed to say anything. You're not supposed to do anything. You're not supposed to tell them there's a cliff. Go the other direction. And she says it's the hardest love to have. So, yeah, and I'm not a parent, so I don't know that from firsthand experience, only by observation. And, you can see and feel that angst between the two, between both the parent and the child. Yeah. All right. And Rob, what's Rob saying? There does come a time when you do have to stand and say, yes, I'm right. You have a problem with that, you will have a fight. Yeah. And he's saying that it's, example is Standing Rock. Exactly. But you know what? It wasn't a fight. It's not how it started. Standing Rock started as a peaceful, prayerful protection of the water of Grandmother Earth, peaceful and prayerful. It started in ceremony. Yep, ceremony, peaceful and prayerful. And I believe that was a hard struggle all the way through, because people had to be reminded every day. A little iced tea. And you're right, though, Rob. There is a place for that. That is true. Is to be able to voice your own truth, and to stand in that truth. There is a place for that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but there's a way to do that. There is a way to be able to deliver that in a peaceful way, in a kind way. And if you can't do that, then you have to check in with yourself, is how much of that is my ego involved in it? Is this coming from my heart? Is it coming from a balance of my heart and my mind? Or is it coming from my mind, which is my ego? That's part of the life lesson, I think, is to be able to stand in your truth, not to give your power away, but to be kind and to be peaceful. That is that's on the menu that sometimes is hard to order. Yeah. Jocelyn is saying, so true. I know. And she's talking about the parents. Parents' instinct is to try to fix them before you can't. Yeah, parenting is hard. It's a loving challenge, huh? Rob is saying there is usually a way to find a win-win just about any situation. But when one side insists the game is zero sum, then I believe it's not for the highest and greatest to be the loser. Well, there is that. It is a way to look at it. And when you look at it that way, it is then it becomes who's right and who's wrong. And of course, you want to be the one who's right. Yeah. Then you go back to the balance of between your head and your heart. And that was, for me, and my next show is all about dissolving of the ego, balancing the ego. And that does have a lot to do with it. Sometimes it's the ego who wants to stand and fight. Again, against better judgment. Yeah. And Margaret is saying it's tough. Yeah, that parenting thing is tough. Rob, prayer warriors, there's a war on high. And yes. Yeah, it's all about the ego. I want to be the one who is just. Justice is blind. Yeah, that's why she's got that bandana around her eyes, right? I just done check my notes to make sure I covered what I wanted to cover. Here's one. These are the words that kept coming to me while I was prepping for the show. Is that to determine who's in your vibe and who's not, it takes courage and bravery, kindness and love, and it also takes patience. Yeah. Because we're all growing. Some more than others, but we're all growing. And so sometimes we have to take that friction and say, okay, is this something that I need for my soul growth? And talking to your spiritual team, because you're not doing this by yourself. You know, that we get into the mindset that we have to do, we're in this alone, and we're not by a long shot. No, so talking to your spiritual team. Some people call it prayer, some people call it meditation. It's fine. But ask for assistance. Help me to see this with more clarity. You know, when the days were tough, is like I'd be saying, what the heck's going on? I need to know a little bit more information. And, you know, and asking for that help. Mm-hmm. And let's see, Margaret. How do we get to registering for the classes? Is there going to be academy such as PolyJoes? Yes. Yeah. Margaret, I'm so glad you asked that question. It is, I have everything in draft form for PolyJoes class, right? I don't have an hours enough day in the day because right now we're working on the magazine to get that published by June 10th. I have a couple more things to put into place for PolyJoes class so that we can announce it and get the registration piece. That's what I'm working on, is the registration piece, to get that put together. It's not difficult. It's not a challenge. It's just time. And so I'll get to it. I'm hoping, well, publishing is coming up on the 10th. It depends on how busy I am in the next day or two. I can get it done. But it is coming, I promise. Yeah. How are you going to register? Okay, so this I do know is that we're going to have it on our website, the registration, and it will also be posted on our main fan page where the show is happening. All right. We are probably going to be going through Eventbrite again with it for the registration. And the reason why we use Eventbrite is because the percentage is lower than PayPal. You know, sometimes it's just basic business. Sorry, but it is. And so that's probably how that's going to happen. And I say probably because I have to sit down and work with Eventbrite and get that situated. And if I run out of time, I'm going to go to the easy route, which is PayPal. So it's between those two, and you'll see it on our website, and also I will list it as an event on the main fan page and also on PolyJoes page as well. Okay, so we'll try to make it as easy to find as possible. We also have another class coming up with Minnie and I. It's called Hogwarts 101. We're going to be covering some of the basics and talking about how we build on those basics. And that's going to happen the weekend of the September 22nd. And I'm scheduling a class here. I promised the academy, closed group academy, that we were going to do a shamanic journey weekend. For those people who haven't done their first journey yet and want to, they've asked if I would be able to assist with that. So we're going to do that. I'm looking at an August date for that. And that will just be a weekend. So, drive over on Friday. We'll work on Saturday, maybe part of the time on Sunday morning, and then be able to end early enough so that people can drive back home, kind of thing. So, yeah. So we'll get that all pulled together, and you guys will know about it. All right. All right. Just checking my notes. I had to flip my page over. All right. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention is that when we are healing our traumas, right? That, and also when we're learning our life lessons, is that it has to go through all four of our bodies in order for it to be complete. And so when you're learning a life lesson, it's going to go through your spiritual body, your emotional body, your mental body, and also your physical body. And when it gets to your physical body, it's been out here in your auric field for quite some time. Okay, coming closer and closer and closer to your physical body. And when it gets to our physical body, that means it's our opportunity, it's our responsibility to ground it to the earth plane. I'm going to say that again, to ground it to the earth plane, because it's grounded through us. And so when we are learning a life lesson and our vibration is changing, it's growing, we have soul growth, it affects everything around us. Our vibration does. Everything. Not just the people in your life, who's in your vibe, not just them. It affects our home, it affects our community, it affects everybody because we're all interconnected. All right, so when you're doing your healing, the same thing. In order for the healing to be complete, to heal all four bodies, and once you have that completion, your vibration shifts and changes, and you affect your environment around you. Everybody, everything is affected by you. The closer we get to our original vibration, our original frequency, is that, talk about harmony, okay? There's more moments of joyfulness for longer periods of time. When I found that when you've learned a life lesson and you've healed the trauma, okay, no matter what it is, that eventually that event or that situation is kind of like a dream. It's not as crisp and clear. You don't dwell on it much anymore. It's kind of like a dream. And then with more passage of earth time, you find yourself thinking, I haven't thought about that in a while. It's been a long time since I thought about that. And so there's more time between. And the other thing that happens is that the triggers that would cause that emotional whatever or that mental whatever, the triggers, you realize that, last year this would have sent me over the edge. And I'm not over the edge. Something changed. And then to the point where when the trigger happens, you notice it, but there's no outburst, there's no adrenaline rush, there's no emotional expand, it doesn't affect you as much as it used to, hardly at all. The things that used to make you cry doesn't anymore. You can tell the story without the tears. And somebody asked, and the thing is that you won't even tell the story because it's no longer, it's a part of you, but it's not your main story anymore. The story changes. Yeah, Alexandra is saying it's not as fluorescent. That's right. It's not. It doesn't affect you. It's a part of you. You learned a life lesson. You got what you needed out of it for your soul growth. But you don't have to carry the trauma around. That's why it's so important to be able to find heart-centered healers, people who really know what they're doing, to help you heal. Yeah. Because, when you change your vibration, you're doing your work. You're keeping that A. You really are. And as a bonus, when you heal your traumas, you affect the healing of your ancestors 7 generations back. That's what we believe. 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. So you're also assisting your descendants. Yeah. So we're literally in the now, in the moment of the now, and we're affecting our ancestors and our descendants with our healing by us doing our own work. Motto says, so freeing when those things lose their power over us. Yeah, it is. It really is. It's because it's in those times when the life lesson is about your own power, is taking your power back or claiming your power. Maybe nobody can take your power unless you allow it. That is so true. And so when we claim it and bring it back to us, that's very empowering. And it's true that situation no longer has a power over you anymore. No. And sometimes it's the people that are closest to us are the ones that bring us the biggest life lesson and the largest growth, right? Because they signed up for it with us. They agreed they would play a certain role for us in order for us to learn that piece. And so when we do learn the piece, learn whatever life lesson that was, and we do the healing around it, their job's done. Their role is done. And your relationship to them shifts. Whether you're no longer in each other's lives, but you don't have the animosity, you don't have the mistrust, you don't have the hurt. It's just not there. You shifted the entire relationship. Or the opposite can happen, is that you actually sit down and you talk about things and you shift the relationship and you actually can have a peaceful coexistence. That can happen. It's just not in the movies. It can happen. As you're doing this, one of the things that also occurs is we learn about our boundaries. What's Margaret saying? She's saying, I was feeling odd when I realized that a lot of the stuff in the past didn't make me feel like it had before. Well, it can make you feel odd because you're thinking, what just happened? Obviously something shifted. Things got learned, things got healed. It no longer has a prominent position in your life story. It's a part of it. It's a part of your growth, but it's not your story anymore. It's kind of like, okay. So it's kind of like, being diabetic. I'm type 2. And so I can control it through my diet, right? Those are food choices. Those are nutritional food choices. When they finally gave me the diagnosis, because we'd been dancing around that for about a year, and then my dad walked on. He passed away in 2010, and that grief situation pushed me over the edge into the diabetic, right? And so my doctor, she's really good. She says, okay, I think we got to call it. I think we got to call it what it is and deal with it. And so she said, take the year and we'll adjust, work on your diet and heal from the grief, right? Take the year and see we're going to do this again in a year and see where you're at. Well, one of the things I decided through all of that is that okay, I'm diabetic, but that's just one fraction piece of me. That's not my entire story. And it's not, I don't want it to take over my entire life. I have to face it, and I'm going to learn from it, and I am going to master this diet thing. That's what my year was about for the diabetes. It was not my entire story. There's so much more to me than just the diabetic piece. Many people didn't even know I was diabetic. I didn't ask them to make me something special because of it. If I went someplace and there was a meal, I made the best choices I could with what food was there. And it worked because it was my responsibility, right? All right. So, and that kind of segues into what I was going to talk about, and that is boundaries. Boundaries. In this work about who's in your vibe and who's not, the setting of boundaries or reestablishing boundaries, because we talk a lot about that here in Star Nations, boundaries and discerning. Yeah. Boundaries are not easy to set. Boundaries can be a challenge to keep. But it's important. It's important to set the boundaries, not just with the people physically in your life, but also with spirit, entities, and those kinds of things. You have to have boundaries in all four of your bodies: your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. 4. To set those boundaries. Because when you're learning the life lesson and you're sorting out who's in your vibe and who's not, you really have to have good boundaries. And so when in the energetic world, when somebody's thinking about you or talking about you not in a good way, and you can feel it. You can feel it. Or they're very intrusive in your meditations and they show up. It's like, all right, this is it. You crossed the line. We're going to have to get some protection up. That's where your spiritual team comes in. You ask them to be removed. And the thing is that if they want to work things out, if they want to sit and talk about it in a mature way, then let's do that in the physical world. Yeah. Is so that because the situation is in the physical world. Let's get together and talk about it. But it crosses the line when you end up in my meditation. So you ask your spiritual team to escort them out. Escort them out, and then you set up the boundary for that protection. That's okay. You can do that. Oh, Margaret, you're so sweet. She says, I love the way you explain things. Well, I'm glad you do, because I'm trying my best to help in the best way that I can when we're trying to figure this out. There's one other thing that I've learned that I wanted to share, and I know I'm running low on time here, is is that when you're discerning for yourself on who's in your vibe and who's not, sometimes we spend a lot of our time and energy on those people who are leaving, or you want them to leave, and we spend a lot of time on that, a lot of energy. We have to look at where we're placing our energy, the energy allocation. When we're going through these kinds of life lessons, they're challenging. They can be very difficult, especially when you're struggling against it. What I learned is that there's people in your life that already love you exactly the way you are, and they are cheering you on to do this change, to make this shift, to grow. And they're there supporting you. When I was going through my stuff, my husband, Paul, man, he was my rock. Still is. We're good. We're best friends. have been since 40 years ago. So I know that he's in the corner with me. He knows he's in my vibe. My sisters are in my vibe. They were with me. Now, did they try to control anything? No. They held my hand. They came to me physically, showed up on a weekend. And that was a turning point for me. So I had to look at, where was I allocating my energy? Allocate your energy to the people who love you, who support you, who care about you. The person or the people that no longer meet your vibration and they're being pissy about it, it's like, if you can work it out with them, if you can sit down and work it out with them, great, do it. If it causes more of a problem, bless them, wish them luck. Thank you very much for everything that you brought to my life. And maybe I'll see you down the road, because things could change and you guys could see each other again and everything will be fine. Or, you just never see them again. I know I make it sound like it's really easy, and it's not. No. But it can be loving. It can be. If you place some of your energy, a good portion of your energy, to the people who already love you, who already support you. They're not trying to control anything. They're not trying to direct you in any one direction at all, but they're there for you. Is to spend your time with them, because they're in your vibe. They're already there. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. Rob saying, driving home from Lowell on M21. I know where that is. You need very good spiritual boundaries going through West Ionia. Ionia! I love that name. I set very specific intentions before getting there. Can you feel it? I certainly can, because I know where you are driving through. Yes, I do. And I think Christine is still in the chat. Did you see that, Christine? Ionia. Oh my gosh, Christine is one of my sisters, and we've traveled a lot together through Michigan. And every time we got near, because one of our other sisters, Minnie, lives in Lyons, and so between Lowell and Lyons, we had to drive through Ionia, and yeah, so we know where you're at. Margaret, yes, I had one wanting me to cross the line in road front of a semi. Took me a minute to realize that it was not mine. Called in Michael to take care of it. Excellent. Got to ask for that help when you need it. Then I sent it with love and light. Good one. Good one. See, Christine, she was there. Ionia. Made me laugh. Made me laugh too. I have a couple other pictures I wanted to show you guys. Here's one. Pay attention to whom your energy increases and decreases around, because that's the universe giving you a hint of who you should embrace or stray from. That is when you need to really identify those vibrations, how it makes you feel, your emotions. How's it feel in your physical body? Does it make you sick to your stomach? Do you get kind of tense? Or does it bring a smile to your face and you're feeling good? Yeah, you got to discern that. I like this one. Why? Same thing. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Actually, I was saying your vibe is your tribe, but it's got feathers on it, and we all like bird medicine, right? But what goes along with this one is birds of a feather. Another old saying: birds of a feather flock together. Right? Bird medicine. Those are just the ones that I found fun, and they were good to look at, that kind of thing. So let's see, Rob. For me, anything trying to attract attach or attack gets a one-way trip back to the light. That section is filled with people not respecting boundaries. After the first trip, no more attacks. Well, good. See, those boundaries really need to be in place. They really do. And I think the harder ones to do are with the people that you love. Yeah. Family members, you might not love them all the time, might not like them all the time, but they're your family. And so to be able to have good boundaries set up, back to the parent and child thing. So a lot of that is about boundaries, in my opinion. And who am I? I don't have kids. My 2 cents, right? And I only have, my opinion is from the direction of a child with my mother. There was a time when my mother, up until I think I was like in my late 20s, whenever I'd go home, she would make comments about my hairstyle or how long my bangs were, right? And so many times she'd literally go get her hair cutting scissors and come and cut my bangs and come at me with a scissor to cut my bangs. I finally told her one time, stop. I like my bangs long. I'm not letting you cut my bangs. Put those things away. And that was the last time she ever did that to me. And so these days, this kind of stuff drives her. She says, when are you going to get your hair cut? I said, soon, maybe. I don't know. When it happens. So, that's that parent-child thing. There's still boundaries, right? Still boundaries. All right. With all of this, there's one thing I'd like to say, and that is when you ask for help, spiritual help, your spiritual team, which is good, asking the people who are in your vibe for help, because they're there for you, is to ask. The other thing is that if you feel you need more, is to get a good therapist, somebody who understands your spiritual path. In other words, that that you are a spiritual being and experiencing a physical life, right? So using your discernment, using the people in your vibe, ask them for referrals. Who do you know? Because I think I need a therapist. I'd like to talk to somebody about this. And in Star Nations, we have 2 people that I think are really, really good. Both happen to be in Michigan. One is Nicole Fix. She writes for us. She is a social worker therapist. I can't remember her whole title, but you can find her on Facebook. Nicole Fix. She has her private therapy office in Grand Rapids, I think it is. And so she's very good. And there's also Terry Ruel, although Terry, I think, is retiring or has retired. But you can contact Terry Ruel. She's on Facebook. If you want to get a referral from her. If she's no longer taking clients, you can get a referral from her, and she will help you find the best person that you can. So, yeah. I'm so glad you guys are here with me. Thank you so much. I like our time together and to be able to talk about such topics like this. This is not an easy topic. It's not. Sometimes it's the harder. Oh, thank you, Rob. Terry is still active. I had thought that she was going to retire this year, but it's good to know that she's still active. And yeah, she used to write for us too. And she's been a guest on many shows to help us understand some of the emotional, psychological stuff about topics. So thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I enjoy our Tuesday nights together. Next Tuesday, the 12th, my guests are going to be Ortrun and Carl Franklin. And we are going to be chatting about and sharing about the dissolving of the ego. Another way to put it is balancing the ego, the mental mind, and the heart, and looking at it from at least a couple different perspectives. One is going to be from the 5th dimension. What does that look like? how do we, because Carl is, I wanted Carla to be here with us so that he can help us understand what that is and why is it important to right size our ego, right? Yeah. So look forward to it next week, okay? Tuesday. Tomorrow morning is, if you want to join me for the card energy of the day, I'm using the Jamie Sams card, the deck cards. And so every morning my spiritual team helps pull a card of energy that's important for us to know for that day, and we share it and we talk about it. 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern. And then tomorrow night is Polly Jo LeBay's show, Soul Connections. And Soul Connections is all about healing. She channels a meditation for us, sets a sacred space. We work with our individual spiritual teams. We set our intentions for ourselves, and she helps us to work through that. So if you're a healer and you haven't taken time to do your own healing, that's a nice time to do that. So with that, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, your Tuesday evening, and we'll see you next week for Communications from Home. Bama Mina, and that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Good night, everybody.